and a
So,
dangerous time we shall have. And welcome everybody into a comic book spectrum. And Clyde, before we get truly started, there was a message that was left for you at the very beginning of the show. Well, before the show actually started here. And that message was,
Well, thank you, Carl. Thank you. I'm glad you liked it.
you do some killer ass thumbnails, dude.
yep.
I'm just saying. I love your thumbnails, but
Well,
I'm weird that way.
I got to thinking about, March comes in like a lion or a lamb, and I was thinking lion or lamb kind of themes, and I came across the Animorphs covers, and I'm like, why should we limit ourselves to lions or lambs? We can be cows and owls. So,
Mhm.
Or owl bears for
or
the
owlbears,
D&D crowd.
yeah. So I'm
Yeah,
glad you liked it. Thank you.
in D&D, owl bears talk like Batman.
Hmm.
You know, in fact they talk like what's his name's Batman from Batman Begins.
So, pretty much, I don't know. This has been a very weird week. I can say that much.
Oh, what happened?
No, not anything bad. Just weird as far as it getting closer and closer to C2E2. I need to get the files over to the printer, and we're kind of like, you know, cutting it close.
Oh, I'm feeling that crunch too. Everything. Um, I was not prepared for all the work I was going to have to do in getting my files transferred to the new
Uh-huh.
computer. And as I was telling Joe before we started, Clip Studio Paint. Um, well, she makes transference interesting. It'll. I do the monthly subscription for one computer. So when I switched everything to the no computer, Clip Studio Paint was like, "This is not the computer that you work on." It's like it's the computer I'm working on now. This is not the computer that you're working on. It's like maybe if I just pick up that computer and throw it out the window. But it's like it's been every time I thought I had something worked out, something else would pop up and need to be adjusted or changed. But hopefully tomorrow, now that I've got oh, thank you, I got them from America's Best. I wanted to do, I thought I'd do something a little different this time. And I figured, hell, I'm wearing glasses. I'm not
I,
going
I,
to pretend that I
I'm
don't
going.
wear
I'm
glasses.
going
I'll
to
go
do this.
red.
I'm going to do this here. I'm going to put on my pseudo Clark Kent, and we all be together. That's my pseudo Clark Kent.
The
There you go.
Fluoride edition.
Yeah.
Does that
Oh,
make
that'll
us?
make a thumbnail for next week for sure.
Oh, cool. We is officially Team Four Eyes.
Yeah. Fantastic four eyes.
Yeah.
I can actually see now. It's weird. I'm still adjusting. Um, though I also notice that there are times when I have to stop working because my eyes will go, okay, you've been at this for about 2 or 3 hours. You need to take a bit of time off, and because I'll realize, okay, I'm not focusing as clearly as I used to, or I'm getting something of a headache.
Late.
Of course she's here. Hey, Leia.
No, she's late on that comment.
Hmm.
Late.
Well, she was late getting in.
No, she was there. She was
She
there when,
was?
when I put the glasses on. She was there.
Okay.
She was there. She was there. She was just late. Very late. Very late.
Yeah. Well, I love these specs because I went to America's Best, and these particular frames were on clearance for $30.
You took Clarence's glasses?
Yes, I took Clarence's.
Glasses.
And what a lot of people don't know is the lens on this side is much thinner. It's about half the thickness of the lens on this side. So whenever I get new glasses, I have to be careful of the frames because they have to shave the lenses, they have to grind them down in such a way that they function, but that they fit the lens. Which is why last time I had the lens where I had the frame up here, but I didn't have anything there because they were cheap frames, and I had to make up for that. A
So
lens,
my comment to that is, Elaine said that you were late. I said that you was late on your Four Eyes comment. That's a big difference.
I apologize.
That's a big difference here. And just for that, just because she's up here saying that other people are calling her late and all this other stuff, where did they go? Hold on. Nope. Give me 1 second here. Time to put on the Cyclops glasses. The Cyclops.
Oh no, don't take your glasses off. You might hit me with an eye beam. Now we have to do is get special lenses where they look like what's the Elastic Man's eyeballs from the old cartoon show. Sir Clyde.
Oh, really? It's like, nope, I was not late. I did not say you were late. I said your comment was late because, again, Elaine called us the Four Eye Crew before you even typed it because I am watching the comments as they come in. So that was the whole thing.
Oh, for 1980s enthusiasts, the cast of, and I don't know why they're coming because as I posted on Facebook, this has, what does this have to do with the price of eggs? The cast of John Hughes's, Molly Ringwald, Judd Nelson,
Breakfast
Emilio
Club.
Estevez, Breakfast Club, they're coming to C2E2.
Yeah.
And my attitude is like, why? Let me guess. Y'all can't get jobs now, and so you think you'll show up at C2E2 and people will pay for $100 and something a pop just to come see you.
Or that's just the celebrities that's available through the
No.
agency that they hired out for celebrities.
The guys from Lord of the Rings, all the hobbits, and John Rhys Davies are also going to be there. Critical Role is also going to be there. They've got some decent guests. And with Billy Boyd and Don Monahan are just amazing on stage. And Elijah's going to be there. Sean Astin's going to be there. Yeah, I'm thinking somebody's got to make a house payment. And that's why they all, which is like, but Emilio, you do okay as a director. Why are you here? To say the least, I'm a little disappointed in C2E2.
No, don't be disappointed in C2E2. Be disappointed in Reed Pop because that's standard fare. Because that's not going to happen just with C2E2. It happens in in other shows that they run, such as Keystone in New York and all the other shows. I wouldn't be surprised if they did that with Emerald City.
Oh,
Because
wow.
they control Emerald City now.
Yeah, Emerald City is getting pretty big. Emerald City is getting pretty big. Critical Role loves going there. They do. They lost their houses in the fire. Yeah, they got to pay it.
Maybe.
Well, no, I know Emilio probably does because he lives. The Sheen Esteves clan. The kids live in Malibu.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, Emilio has a house in Malibu. Was it Martin Sheen lives in Ojai?
It's not about loss of love for the Breakfast Club, but you have to think about this generation. Do not see it as a cult classic like a lot of its older folks.
Also, it's like, yeah, they're not part of the current zeitgeist, and it's not sci-fi, it's not fantasy, it's not horror, it's not the genres we normally associate with cons like this. It's a slice of life movie at best. And to me, I mean, I would have rather seen them get the folks from Gremlins and have them show up, because that is at least a connection with what the con does, as opposed to, you know, I would, yeah, but my, oh my God, Breakfast Club wasn't like, oh my God, Breakfast Club. It was like, oh my God, Breakfast Club.
I mean, I see Breakfast Club being more associated with like San Diego. That would be something that San Diego would definitely have,
Yeah.
because it's all encompassing, because it is Hollywood's Comic Con now, as opposed to anything else. But C2, but I wouldn't say C2E2. Repop is in competition with Comic Con International, so I could see them pulling something like this
Oh,
for
see,
the
I
smaller
always thought
shows.
Comic Con International was part of Reed Pop as well.
No, two separate companies.
Ah, okay. That's good to know. See, I did not know that.
Hmm.
I keep moving my my little cursor because I'm trying not to make the mistake of inadvertently click on the mute button as I did last time.
Mhm.
That was such a,
Yep.
that made such a thing. Oh, before I forget,
Yes, it was. No,
hey,
no, no. Wait. Was it Aurora, or was it? I know parts of Wayne's World was filmed in Aurora. I forgot what suburb that they filmed
Evanston.
at high school.
Hughes was big on things like Evanston, Schaumburg,
Right. It
the
was at I
Groves.
forgot which high school it was. It was a suburban high school that they filmed most of the Breakfast Club in.
Yeah, he was big on like Evanston and Schaumburg and
Mhm.
the Groves.
Yep.
Like I said, I was excited when I found out the guys from Lord of the Rings, our hobbits, and John Rhys Davies were coming. It's like, great, you know, the hobbits and the Ent. It's gonna be amazing, and Critical Role's gonna be there. It's gonna be amazing. They have, voice actors from manga and stuff coming. Gonna be amazing. But to me, it just felt like I was just sitting there going, why? You know, if they had done things like, whoops, we lost Clyde.
No. Clyde is in the middle of doing something.
Ah, okay. I thought,
We
maybe.
didn't lose Clyde. Clyde was looking at something. He was like, "Oh, I gotta take a moment."
Okay, I was afraid maybe it's like some alien had
Yeah,
jumped
this
in
planes.
and stuff.
That yeah, this planes.
This
That's correct.
planes, yeah.
Yeah.
Another great suburb. I when I lived in LA, it I used to hate going to things because I'd always run into someone who knew me and would go, "Oh, this person's from Chicago," and it's like, "Really?" And I go, "What neighborhood are you from?"
She got jokes tonight.
Yeah,
Yeah.
She
I
got jokes
see
tonight.
that.
So my son-in-law, speaking of guests for convention and stuff, he has discovered the TV versions of the Marvel superheroes from the 70s.
Oh, okay.
He knew about the Hulk, but he didn't know about Captain America. I don't know how many times he shared with me like scenes from the Captain America movies with the plastic shield doing the
And the
wow
motorcycle
motorcycle and everything,
with the
and
helmet with the wings on the side.
cycle helmet with the wings on it. And
They were trying. Come on.
I know that's why I
It
tell
can't be
him,
as trippy as Doctor Strange from back then. That movie
yeah,
is
well,
still
Or
trippy.
the Japanese Spider-Man movies.
yeah,
It's either
yeah,
Chinese or Japanese Spider-Man movies from back in the day.
kaiju Spider-Man, yes.
Right.
So, but anyway, he's been sharing with me these clips, going, "My gosh, did they spend $20 on the effects for this?" I'm like, "Look, it's TV in the 70s, it's."
Hey,
And like Spider-Man, the Spider-Man stuff, you had actually stuntmen hanging off the sides of skyscrapers in New York. I mean, that is Daredevil practical effects time.
yeah.
Say
And,
what you want, but
and I will say, yeah, those shows leave something to be desired, but ABC, CBS, even NBC help keep the genre going
mhm.
in regards to TV stuff.
But Reb
because
Brown played Captain America in those movies, and I told him, I'm like, to be fair, the character as portrayed in those specials is the son of the original Captain America. So
from
it's
from
not
the
the same.
early movies. Yeah.
yeah,
It's not the
it
same.
wasn't Steve Rogers.
It's not the same. It's not the same character as straight from the comic books. But
Mhm.
anyway, Reb Brown is going to be a guest at one of the conventions down in this area.
Ooh.
So I showed him a picture. I was like, also, here's a guy that lets Mystery Science Theater 3000 play with his movies and, finds humor in it. And 76 years old, this man is. And look at him. And he's standing at a convention table. He's got a Captain America t-shirt that looks like the classic Cap design, holding a shield. He looks great. I mean, he looks more like 56 years old, not 76 years old. He's got his musculature is intact and everything. And I'm like, you say what you want to. He may not have been the best actor in the world, but look at this guy, and he's going to the
He's
conventions.
keeping himself together.
Yeah.
I was, whenever people snicker about Linda Carter, it's like, have you seen Girly? She's in her 80s.
Yep.
She's still hot.
Oh yeah.
Okay. So, 6 foot tall. People forget Linda Carter is 6 feet tall. Okay. It's one of the reasons she got hired, because they felt that, okay, if she's supposed to be an Amazon, we've got to find an actress with height.
Well, you have to take a look at the end credits for Wonder Woman 84, and she still got it. It's like the whole thing about, it was nothing but leverage. No big deal.
Jumped up and screamed. I was watching that here with my goddaughter. Didn't it, Courtney? She's got her headphones on. It's like, I'm trying to ignore you, woman. But we were watching Wonder Woman 84 together, and when because they teased the scene early in the movie because they're talking about the armor, but you never see who the actress is in it. And then when you get to that scene and it was her, I just jumped up and screamed. I just lost my stuff because it was like, yes. But it was like, I was kind of happy that they didn't show them standing together, because Gal Gadot, I love her. She's a sweetie, but she ain't all that tall. If you watch the movies, her boots are made the way they are because she's not very tall. So she has these she's got wedge heels in her boots.
Mm-hmm.
To give her some height. But yeah, she ain't all that tall. And, and part of me was like, I would have loved to have seen some, and I'd seen a few backstage, behind the scenes footage of them, but they're always like sitting down. I would have loved to have seen, footage of them standing together in flats or something. So I can see Linda Carter just towering over like, yo, baby, I'm the original.
No, I just felt that Disney dropped the ball on her second coming, though, dealing with the superhero genre, because people keep forgetting about that she was the principal in Sky High.
Oh,
yes.
Yeah.
And I was like, if this franchise takes off, that's a second coming for her, because now she's in a role where she's more of a mentor. She doesn't have to be a superhero.
And she doesn't have to do all the physical stunts and stuff like that, because she did, for the time, she did as many stunts as they would allow her to do.
Mm-hmm.
They had, and they couldn't find a 6 foot tall stunt woman. So they had to have men. They had to cheat the angle a lot of times and had men, which means they had a guy in a tank, shirts they had to tuck to do her stunt work. She, like I said, I think Adele is a sweetie, and I love what she put into the role, but Carter will always have my heart. It's like Carolyn Jones is my Morticia.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so we got her. It's like, okay, hula hula, I would do that. I'll make certain I don't start nothing hula hula.
Hmm.
If you get that reference, then you're good.
Hmm.
And I'll give you a hint. It's not a comic book reference, but it is a reference to E. O'Brien.
Okay.
See, Captain America with J.D. Salinger's son wasn't that bad. No, it wasn't bad. It's just the design of the cap suit and the helmet and all the other stuff. But story wise, it wasn't bad. Again, but then again, the '70s Spider-Man, specials weren't bad at all. It just to me the Doctor Strange was just too trippy. They were doing some serious drugs for that movie because it just didn't make any sense.
Well, but this was also the time when we got Kolchak, the Night Stalker.
Yeah.
ABC was doing, and like I said, this is why ABC, CBS, NBC, they were doing a lot of more experimental things up until like the mid 80s. And then all of a sudden they got, NBC especially got very formulaic. Because if you think about when Powers and Matthews Stars started, it was a much different show. There was an actual love interest. They were working on this romance between him and the local girl, and then within a year they changed it, and suddenly it became Cutie of the Week. And it's like, this is Powers and Matthews Star, not Star Trek. But they had kind of, and you could see it. They did it with them. They did it with Man from Atlantis. They did it with Sequest. They just started somebody up in. They got some idiot up in there who was like, "Well, this worked for Star Trek," and it's like, this is not Star. I would have been arrested if I'd have been old enough to sit in those meetings, because headlines would have went, "Woman goes crazy, picks up a desk and beats idiot in head with it."
Again, Siri, I'm glad that you guys understood my reference about Manimal. Manimal was one of those, and Automan. There was no reason why they need to take Automan off of the show, other than the fact that it cost too much money for a television show because of the graphics that they had to use at the time. But it made sense. The show made sense as far as the fact of the automated man helping to solve crimes and everything. But for them to use the generated graphics for like the car, his uniform, and all the other stuff back then, that was a couple $100,000 an episode.
Yeah.
To do the graphics, and it's like they're not making that much money hand over fist to do something like that.
Yeah.
Trying to do Tron special effects of the time, Tron special effects on a TV budget.
Oh yeah.
Really hard.
Yeah, Galactica also was suffering under that, because they were trying to do in fact, they had John Dykstra on that. So they were getting that sort of Star Wars quality of ship design. But I think Galactica 19, that was one of the things, along with the lackluster characters, that was killing Galactica 1980 is they were trying to get these very splashy type of effects that were just way more, than they could afford at the time. And they just weren't getting the audience. Yeah, Lou Ferrigno is still in good shape.
Yep, I agree. I mean, if you ever meet him in a show, it's like, yeah, he still got it. I still say that apologist should have been Linda Carter.
I think sometimes I think that, and then other times no, because I think there are enough of us around who loved the Linda Carter series, both the ABC and CBS. I think they were trying, especially with the first movie, they didn't want to overshadow Godot.
Well, if anything, Linda Carter should have been the general. I can't even pronounce her name. Antipo, Antelope, General Antelope, Hippolyta's sister.
Yeah.
That's what Linda Carter should have been, because technically, because she was Wonder Woman before, it made sense for her to be trained by her, to be truly trained by her to be Wonder Woman. It made sense here.
Yeah, but I always wondered if they didn't because either Carter wasn't interested, either she wasn't interested, or maybe she, yeah, but the guys she was working with were much taller.
Mhm.
So, they had to put heels on her so she could. I mean, 6'10", I mean, 5'10" is a good height, but
Yeah. Sings in the
really
fall. Hmm.
cool.
No,
Yeah,
that's
I
not
love you too.
it. Also, now I need to get a Hawaiian shirt with big flowers on it.
Love the
So she
cartoon.
knows. So she
You
knows my
know,
reference now. So she got my reference.
Oh,
And Aunt IOP. Yeah.
Antiope, yeah,
Antiope.
Tiope,
Yeah.
yeah. But yeah, I would have loved to have seen her in the first movie, but like I said, that when that revealed at the end, just made it for me. It was like,
But
okay,
it also proved something else that I didn't like too. That's another reason why I didn't like Wonder Woman 84. For the armor to withstand that much back then, how come it got ripped to shreds in about 5 seconds in the in the fight versus a Pharaoh cheetah? Yeah, right. Okay, writers. Yeah, right. Armor that's just about indestructible. Rip, rip. I was like, it's coming off like foil. What in the world?
well, what can I say? It different times, perhaps.
Did you guys watch any of the 2 episodes of Daredevil Born Again that they dropped?
I'm
Nope,
going to be watching it this weekend.
nope. I have not watched that, but I did finish Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man.
I watched the first episode of that, but I haven't got back to it. And I need to because it sounds like it struck some good chords. But
Yes, it did. It did.
Okay, I will. What is that on again?
Oh, that's still on Disney Plus.
Okay,
So that first season has finished. That
okay.
first season has finished up. I'm not sorry if they're doing a second season or not, but if they do a second season, everything is really set up very well to really allow some of the villains to become true villains here.
Ooh,
I'm
cool.
happy. I'm happy that they did what they did with certain characters because, like I said, I'm not one for spoilers, so I'm not doing any spoilers.
Aw.
What you want me to spoil? Does the crowd? Does the chat want me to spoil?
No, Blake
Because
just wants me to shut
we
up.
only truly got one former super villain in their original costume by the end of it.
Ah.
So we got one, but it set up so many different other characters to be a part of it, and their timelines of how they're going to come to power and everything, and the power struggles between all the different villains. It's good. It's good.
Oh, before I forget, um, parents or people who just love Carmen San Diego, the new Carmen San Diego game is out.
She said it was PS2 era graphics. She does not like Wonder Woman 84 here. It's like she didn't even use the damn armor. No, she wore it. She wore it. She wore it just for a few seconds. Cheetah ripped it open and threw the
Yeah,
wings all over the place and everything. It was just like, yeah.
I was
So
pretty
much, so
much.
much for the Golden Eagle or the legendary Golden Eagle armor.
Well, we can all say in agreement that Linda Carter wore it best.
Yeah, I had the Golden Eagle armor in the TV series.
Oh no, but
But I can say that Linda Carr wore skateboarding equipment very well.
and she didn't have to have high heels.
No,
You know.
but then again, it's like not too many characters in her series was over like what 6'1", I believe. She didn't have really anybody that was like ultra tall.
Lyle Wagner
It's like 6'2" or
was.
6'3".
Yeah, I think she and Lyle Wagner. I think, and that's what one of the reasons why they gave her. She had kind of like kittenish heels, so that they would be, because I think he's like 6'2" and she was already 6 feet. So to keep them on a even keel. But I love the fact that here was this female superhero, and she wasn't running. She wasn't running around in 10-inch stilettos. That they at least made her look, though I will say there were certain things about the original ABC that I love best because they set it in the 40s, and then when her younger sister shows up and she
Mhm.
does the spinny thing.
Again,
There was a fun campiness to that I really enjoyed. The
we got young Deborah Winger
Mhm.
as Drusilla.
Yes.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, uh, the CBS series, as they moved along, and then they tried to go, they were like, oh, Buck Rogers has the funny droids. We'll get a computer that, it's like, oh, it was when she was just her. They were it was it when they got into, oh well, this show's doing this, so we'll do that. And it's like, no, you had something already. She was the only leading superhuman female on TV, prime time. You already had that. You didn't have to like add all this stuff to it. Remember what made the show such a hit on ABC, and keep with that. Keep with it. Yeah,
Well,
update it, but keep with the formula. Keep it.
it's a difference in networks for one, and they tried to catch lightning in a bottle with all these other, if I could say, knockoffs. Because again, you had what, Electra Woman and Dyna Girl or something like that tried to pick up the pieces after that and never took place. You had ISIS,
Well,
Mhm.
that was Saturday morning cartoons, though.
Had the
Oh my,
Bionic Woman.
Bionic Woman.
Bionic. Well, but even I will say though, Bionic Woman, I never compared. I always thought that in the same universe, Carter's Wonder Woman and what's her name's Bionic Woman would have been friends.
Yes,
I
that
think they would have been
it was
friends.
in the Dynamite
Yeah,
Entertainment world. They did
the
do a
same.
Wonder Woman 77 with and the Bionic Woman, and they teamed
Yeah.
up and they did things together. So
No,
yeah,
but I also
Mhm.
I did love Jamie, the Bionic Woman. I actually did love that series. I thought it was a really there was a sweetness to the series. She was she taught kids at school when she wasn't being a super spy. She was teaching kids at school. Um, she her missions weren't exactly the same as Steve's unless there was a team up. you know Her missions were more, where Steve was more, he was Mr. Fighting Man. Hers were more, she had to use her brains as much as she used her enhancements.
but then again, Oscar Goldman wasn't in 100% control of her, if I remember correctly from that series.
No, no, but like I said, yeah.
OSI had more control over Janie Summers.
But like I said, I love
Jamie
the fact.
Summers, I should say.
What I liked
Jamie.
about the
Yeah.
Jamie Summers character, it wasn't the beat up the bad guy as much as there's this stuff going on. You we need you to get in there. You need to figure out what it is, and then figure out how to put a stop to it. It was less about the bionics in a lot of episodes and more
She was
about
more of the spy than
she was
Steve
more of a
Austin was.
spy, and she was more of a detective. you know it's like, yes, she could do things to make sure she didn't get dead, um and whatnot, but it was more her figuring out what was going on.
But wouldn't that be more akin to what she did as policewoman, though?
Those aren't the same two actresses, and Jamie wasn't the policewoman. She was a teacher.
No,
Her
she was originally a teacher slash tennis pro before she got her
Yeah,
bionics.
and she what happened was that she was skydiving,
Mhm.
and there was an accident with her chute. Her chute failed, right?
Yeah, that was her origin. But the thing
and
about it is that
and
Steve Austin taught them.
She and Steve Austin had been something of a couple
Mhm.
before. Thought it was really cute that they let Lee Majors sing the Jamie song. There's a love song in the
Mhm.
series when they are introducing her, and it's Lee Majors singing it, if I'm correct. But yeah, I like I said, I love the fact that it was as much of her brain as her brawn. That it wasn't always the
It was always
question.
more of her brain than Braun in a Bionic Woman, because technically she was faster than he was, but I think he was more durable.
He
She was
was more
faster and
durable.
stronger than he ever
Well,
was.
she could jump higher
Mhm.
and whatnot, but
She was
and
actually faster.
but Steve was the better fighter than
She
she
he was
was.
actually
Steve
trained to
was,
fight. Yeah,
He
he
was
yeah,
was.
he was more the
military. He's
brawler.
ex-military.
Yeah, Steve is
She's not.
ex-military. She's not military. I love the fact that the series didn't make her into super Jamie fighter woman. It was always about her. You could see that this was about if she didn't have her mental capabilities, she would, she wouldn't have got through it. But I'm just weird that way.
There you go.
Yeah,
Hey!
that's the book that was saying Wonder Woman 77 and the Bionic Woman. That was, I believe, a 6-issue series.
I always liked
Ooh.
Jamie's undercover work. Like she was a female wrestler in one
Hmm.
episode, and she was a policewoman in another episode. And I always thought that was kind of the strength of her show, was seeing her go from being a teacher to being all these other
Right. She was a
roles, and she
she was
did
a
she did really
translator in
well.
one. I mean, she was
Yeah,
literally the spy, the
Yeah.
prototypical
yeah.
spy that OSI wanted, as compared to Steve Austin, which was, here we got this $6 million weapon. We're going to send that over there to deal with this living robot
Yeah.
and have them to fight, or we're going to have Steve fight Sasquatch. It's just like $6 million man does not make sense too much. Bionic Woman does, because
Yeah.
what they was doing here.
But like I said, I guess I was more into Bionic Woman than I was $6 Million Man, and part of it was because she was so smart. It wasn't just it. Brawn when she needed it, but what
Mhm.
she really was smart.
Yeah, I'm going to mention the Bionic Woman. It's like, oh, Jane.
I love you for. That's true. I think some television exec lost a bet
Hmm.
and he got to do it.
He was trying, wasn't he trying to? A bunch of the TV stars were trying to also be crooners, and from Shatner and Nimoy and
Oh,
everybody on. That was kind of just a natural attempt. David Soul,
For
he
them to be
tried.
more of a triple threat type deal, to have something other than just being known for acting.
Mhm.
They was like, oh, I act on television, but I want to be on stage too, or I want to get, be as, be on Broadway as well, or have a recording contract or something to that magnitude.
I think I always think for this age the rappers who actually wanted to be actors. If you think about Queen Latifah, if you think about LL Cool, if you think especially Coolio, those actors who have transitioned into acting, I think that was always their ultimate goal.
Ice Cube.
This was a way of getting in. And I think a lot of actors really did think that they were going to get in, getting into TV would lead them to Broadway and whatnot. If you think about, say, Raquel Welch, yeah, I'm going in the Wayback Machine.
I wasn't thinking Raquel Welch. The first one that came to my mind was dang it, now you made me, I had it and you made me lose it
Hmm.
here. Adrian Barbeau.
Hmm.
Okay.
Again, the so-called, as like, she's going to be the next big sex symbol thing on television. It's like, no, she's pretty much doing this just to make a name for herself to go elsewhere.
So she can transition.
Mhm.
Raquel Welch wanted to be on Broadway. Unfortunately, and it was rare. She did an interview once, and she was talking about Liza Minnelli.
Mm-hmm.
And she had seen Liza Minnelli in the show, and something had gone with the sound state, with the sound system or whatever. And Liza Minnelli got up and just, sang and whatnot. And she was like, "I ain't got that. I ain't got that skill," you know.
No,
And
she just had modeling.
she was a model. Then she became an actress, and then I think she started getting, because I noticed there was a thing in that time where there were a lot of actresses, especially in the 70s to the 80s, who were transitioning. If they couldn't get stage in New York, but they could go to Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
Joyce DeWitt from Three's Company.
Mm-hmm.
After that she ended up headlining in Vegas for a while. Same thing with Welch. She ended up headlining in Vegas for a while. Julie Newmar
Mm-hmm.
actually ended up headlining in Vegas for a while. So there are a lot of actresses who it's like, okay, I'm not a serious singer. I can sing a little. And I think that was something I respected, because I was reading, like I said, I was reading the interview, and she was saying, yeah, I had to come and understand that I can sing a little, but I'm never going to be, these powerhouse.
Not like Linda Carter level, who actually had recording contracts and everything with two different bands.
But she ended up doing stuff on Broadway, not Broadway. She ended up doing stuff in Vegas as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then, but she also got tour. She was also able to get some tours and stuff where she toured the country and did shows, and it did like one
But
woman
she had a
shows and stuff.
recording career before she even did Wonder Woman, though. That's the whole thing.
That's true. That's true. It wasn't just, hey, I'm just a good looking model and I'm tall and I fit the outfit.
It's like, I'm a former Miss America. I look great. It's like, no, she had a nice little recording career and all this other stuff, and it just so happened she walked into it, because that it wasn't like, something that was given to her. She kind of walked into it.
Yeah, but also what I liked about Carter is that she
Good
was
example,
more than
Carl.
just, yes.
Yeah. Santa baby.
I've got a song that she did. It's on my AccuRadio playlist, and occasionally it pops up. I've got a few tunes that she's done that are on there that, when they pop up, it's like, yeah, sing it, Eartha. I'm gonna just stop doing dishes so I can stand here and listen to Eartha go. You have to admit, I love her voice. She had such a unique sound, and she knew how to work that voice.
Well, thanks to Clyde. Clyde have an earwig in my head as of right now. Not the Santa baby song.
Okay.
It's about how she called the main character in Boomerang my kid.
Well,
I'm waiting for you, my kid.
well, that whole purring growl of hers, and we loved her in what's the one where he's the Emperor's New Groove. I think it is the one where
Right.
he gets turned and she's the evil guy. She's like the antagonist, and we just loved her in that. You could tell she was just having the time of her life, and I really love that. And she kept, even in her 80s, she was in good shape. In fact, she taught when because she had retired from doing stuff for a while. I think she did Boomerang with Eddie Murphy,
Mm-hmm.
and then she didn't do a lot for a while after that. And then they asked her to do Emperor's New Groove. But in between that, because she had a little house in a canyon, and she also had a dance school.
Mm-hmm.
And she was teaching children and whatnot. And she was one of those rare people. She taught kids who couldn't have afforded to go to school. She had like programs so that kids who normally couldn't afford to go to a school like hers could come and get training directly from her. She didn't go, oh, this is one of the kids that we've given, we've paid their tuition. I'll let somebody else take them. She taught all her kids.
And that's why I love listening to interviews dealing with Eartha Kitt, especially dealing with the fact that how she got blackballed from Hollywood.
And I thought, that was such, because it's not like I've seen the footage of that. She was invited, was it Lady Bird
Mm-hmm.
Johnson was having one of these Hollywood women's lunches, and
It wasn't
they,
Hollywood. It wasn't Hollywood. It was DC. It was one of her
but it
one
was
of the
in
political.
DC, but it was a lot of women who were
Mm-hmm.
in the entertainment field, either Broadway. It was a mix of women who worked on both Broadway and in Hollywood.
Mm-hmm.
And she was asking questions about what they thought and what they felt. And Kit, she just got up and honestly said, she was talking about the kids, and this is because she was working with kids and saying, it's not that they're bad kids, that, but when you feel like your opportunities, and she's talking about how a lot of these kids, because they feel like they don't have opportunity, if they go, because, and I've had people, I remember in the 80s, I had people get in my face and go, explain the Black experience to me. It's like, well, I can explain my experience as a Black woman, but, the entire Black experience. And she was trying to, talk about, it's not that these are bad kids, but when you feel like you don't have opportunity, you do what you can to escape it. And sometimes that will lead you down some pretty dark corridors. And she spoke from the heart. She didn't accuse anybody at the table of anything. She didn't accuse Lady Bird, but Mrs. Johnson got all up in her feels and it made her cry and sad. And so she went to, the hubby and said, oh my God, what she said was just, it made me so sad, because I feel ashamed to be a rich white woman. And so it's like, well, she will never work in Hollywood again.
That's what Lyndon Baines Johnson did.
Yeah,
I mean, she opened up Lady Bird's eyes to a lot of stuff,
and it made her cry because she realized, oh, here's this other part of the world that I have no connection with.
mm-hmm.
And she was just trying to give them all a view of what those lives are like.
So
And
she made one of the primary blunders. It was in Washington, and somebody asked her her opinion, and she told the truth.
yeah, she spoke truth to power.
Only
And
the second biggest blunder is starting a land war in Asia, according to the Princess Bride. But otherwise,
but and Lady Bird couldn't handle it, so she went crying to Lyndon.
And you
And
know how Lyndon was during that time. He made it clear how he felt about a lot of stuff when it comes to race relations.
And so, he blackballed her. He got his little, groin hairs in a bunch, and he blackballed her. And it's like, you know what? Okay, maybe.
Say Eartha was way too flexible. She did an episode of Mission Impossible.
Oh yeah. Oh wow. I remember that.
Mm-hmm.
I keep forgetting if that was when Nimoy was on the show.
Oh,
Nimoy
Nimoy was an integral part of Mission Impossible until he got typecast.
Yeah,
once
he
he
was
started
the
to
tech
typecast,
guy.
that's when he left.
Yes.
That's when he left.
Paris.
Mm-hmm.
Played the character Paris. Yeah, that was one of my favorites as a kid.
But that just but that broke my heart.
Mm-hmm.
Because it was like, she didn't accuse her of anything. She didn't accuse anybody of anything. She was asked a question and she was trying to answer it as truthfully as honestly as she could, without being accusatory. Because she didn't say it's your husband's, policies or any of that. She was just trying to give them they asked her the question, she was answering it.
She gave her the understanding it wasn't to her. It wasn't to her. I wouldn't say to her liking, but it opened up her eyes and made her sad enough to start questioning, and that's what caused the problem.
But in his reaction just is, it's like it was way out of bounds. In my opinion, it was unnecessary and out of bounds. Sure, okay, don't invite her back to the White House. Don't invite her back to the White House. Don't let her, if there's something going
She
on in
did
the
nothing
Kennedy.
wrong.
She
That's the
didn't.
whole thing.
But what I'm
She
saying is,
didn't offend
if he
anybody.
had
She
to,
did nothing wrong. She just answered a question honestly.
but I'm saying if he had to get his little curlies in a bunch, fine. Make sure she can't perform at Lincoln Center when you're in town. But to get up and blackball someone so completely, luckily it was like, well, this ain't the only thing I can do.
I also look at the day and times that it happened in. There's no way in the world that with certain ilk, I'm going to put it that way, with certain ilk that it was bound to happen regardless. And that wasn't the only incident that, interview wise, that caught my attention dealing with Eartha Kitt. It was also another one dealing with her being in Africa and the one amusement park that she wanted to go to with her daughter. And it turned out that it's like, and she said this, on stage in front of the world, in front of the whole entire world. It's like, I wanted to go to this one amusement park and they would not let us in.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing about it is, like, my daughter was perfectly fine, and they didn't realize that her daughter was mixed
Yeah,
because her daughter looks more
her
Caucasian than black.
her
But they
daughter's
wouldn't
gorgeous.
let her in. But they had no idea who she was. The daughter was about to get upset. It's like, Mom, why don't you tell you? Why don't you? It's like, why don't you? Complain and do this. It's like, no, I don't have to do that. Just be patient. When the time comes, everything's going to be taken care of. So,
Similar note.
mhm,
You guys made me think of this. We watched Nickel Boys this week.
mhm.
I would encourage anybody to read the book and see the movie. I think you'll get more out of the movie if you've read the book first, because it has a twisty part that, and I wondered how they would do it in the movie, and they do a good job of it. My wife hadn't read the book; she got the twist to it, but one of the, and it's about a young teenage boys reform school in the late 50s, early 60s. Um, in it one of the things that one of the characters gets fixated on, because he's a young black man, and when he's a child he can't go to Funtown. Funtown has ads all the time on the radio. Come to Funtown, bring your family, and da, 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 da.
Fun town, fun for the kids and you.
But it's not, they don't let black people in there. There's no reason to show up. You can't get in.
Mhm.
And this is illustrated to him quite specifically. So um, the atmosphere that you're talking about, and that whole uh, Johnson kind of embodies the whole thing of it, is very well brought out in that movie in a way that makes you aware, feel. The book is excellent. It was one of my best reads of last year, I think. But Nickel Boys does a good job. It's just a little twisty. You got to pay attention, because there's a big point made, and it's subtle. So that's my recommendation.
Well,
All right.
that reminds me of growing up here in Chicago, because I remember as a little girl when it was still Marshall Fields, and the subway had a Marshall Field stop. Um, you would get off the subway because the ladies who shop there didn't want to come into the store the same entrance as the people who worked there, and the only black people they employed were on the cleaning crew. But what people don't realize, the area that Jill and I live in, there are a lot of nicer areas of South Shore that were built by people who did business. They made the stuff that Marshall Field sold under their own banner, as well as Carson Perry Scott. There were people who they did clothing manufacturing, light. They made small furniture, millinery work, all of that stuff that they had that they sold locally under their own banners. They worked with a lot of black businesses, and yet those people couldn't come in to the entrance. My grandmother used to shop at Fields, and when I was a little girl, she could only shop the basement. If you were black, you could only shop the Fields basement. And then I think it was what, around the early 70s, where suddenly you could go into the rest of the store. But even so, the higher up in the store you got, the fewer black people they were shopping. And for a while, you couldn't eat at the Walnut Room if you were black. You couldn't eat in the Walnut Room. But even today, I've had a couple of conversations on Facebook lately. I've had to point out people. Even today, there are places, there are neighborhoods. I don't go. If I go to them, I'm not there as it gets towards sundown because I know it's not safe. There are places I don't go into the. I don't go into the Hancock Building to their restaurant or their bar up there, because they don't like serving black folks there.
You still can't do that now in Bridgeview across I want to say like 35th and Halsted.
Yeah, if you go to there are places in Bridgeview where you can go into there now, but they will give you, they will give you some serious stink eye. I remember my dad going into Bridgeview. I forgot where in Bridgeview. There was a place that made good hoagies, and he would like to swing in there just before sundown to grab hoagies and then swing back out. He was like just playing on the edges of it. How late can I go there before it gets dangerous? And it's like, okay, why do you have me in the car? Because I don't want to die. But one of the things as a black child, especially when you got to your teen years growing up, you had to learn what were sundown neighborhoods. Cicero was a sundown neighborhood, and Cicero, you could pass through there to go to the mall, but you weren't supposed to stop. You got off the train, you got on the bus, you kept going towards the mall. Oak Park was one of the first suburbs I ever went to as a kid where you could go. But even then, there were places there were stores where it was made very clear that your presence was not wanted.
Mm-hmm.
And I still find myself, and it's because I've made you make such a habit of it. I still now, when I walk in someplace, I immediately check out. It's like, what's the attitude? What, how closely am I being scrutinized? Because it's just like, oh, night, Dada.
Yep, it's getting close for them to do stupid o'clock here, so we're getting close to our second hour.
Fun.
Thanks for dropping in with us.
I got to learn to bake bread, which means, Joe, I may have to send some stuff to your house and use you as a taste dummy along with the crowd here.
What, you finally got it with a bread maker or something like that?
No, there are some bread recipes that you can make in cast iron Dutch ovens. And I have a Dutch oven that my mom got. It's like,
yes, it is 9:01 Eastern, which is normally about that time when stupid o'clock comes on. 9 o'clock Eastern.
8 o'clock Western, 6 o'clock. 8 o'clock Central, 6 o'clock Western. And please do not make me try to calculate what the time is in London, because that gives me headaches. I can do it.
I was about to say, what's Mountain Time? 7. Mountain is 7.
Remember when you had to know all those times as a kid? Because they would, they would get up and say, you had to know what your time zone was, because sometimes, the ABC especially would
Hmm.
give you, it's on at this time, this time, that time, especially if when it was the holidays and you wanted to catch all the specials. You had to remember where, that we were central, not mountain. Made that mistake. It was not fun.
Num
Yeah,
num bread.
yeah,
What
yeah.
flavor is num num bread?
Yeah, he said num num bread will make his diabetes
Yeah.
go out of whack.
I'm thinking I would love to start with a sourdough loaf, and
Sourdough could
then
be easy. That could be easy bread to make.
as I'm feeling more experimental, like a friend of mine was talking about a connection to a friend of mine was talking about, she's doing walnut cranberry, but I can't do walnuts because John can't eat nuts. So it's like, oh, but I bet you I can make raisin bread.
Yeah,
Hmm.
raisin bread could be good.
I can make a raisin bread or an apple loaf, or Oh, before I forget, the new Carmen San Diego game is out.
It is.
Yep, it dropped earlier this week. I know that because we had to set up this. We had to set up the spare Switch dock
Mhm.
in the living room, and
Hmm.
John, he has played it more than one day. He has played it for quite um, a few hours each time, so he seems to be enjoying it. It has got, which is great because I had to pay. It was like $33 for that game.
Is it like the older games? Is it still a detective game or is it
It's
something different?
it's it's a detective. It is a detective game. It is a problem solving game. There are puzzles and stuff in order. You have to
Oh, so
figure out the.
it's an action puzzle game. It's not like the old school detective. It's like follow the right
Well,
clues to
you
get to
have
the
to.
right spot to type.
Yeah, you still have to do that, but there are still more puzzle things, like get the description of someone, and then based on that description you have to figure out, of the list of suspects, you have to figure out who fits closest to that description.
Oh, so they still have Vile. Good.
you know yeah, they
Vile.
still have Vile. You there are, like I said, there are it's all built into, I think he's in the first level now, so and Carmen, of course, is being the player enlists Carmen to help him solve the mystery, and of course
Oh,
get.
this is prequel. This is prequel Carmen then.
Yeah, it's really, he's having, like I said, he's having fun.
Yeah.
He's having fun.
No, see,
And they will
I'm old school Carmen
challenge.
San Diego. I'm old school Carmen San Diego when when she supposedly turned.
This
But I
is
think this new
definitely.
Carmen is going to be pre old school, which means that she's either a double agent for us or it's before she turns.
She's turned because she's going. The player is enlisting her to retrieve something that Vile stole. So she
So this
has
is
to.
double. This is double agent. This is double
Yeah,
agent Carmen. Okay.
yeah. And like I said, he's having fun because he played. Usually he goes to bed at 10 o'clock.
Mhm.
And the first night he didn't go to bed until closer to 11 because he was doing the game. Once he figured out how to use the thingy, and we both had to learn how to do it. Once he got that figured out and stuff, he just got into it. And then I noticed, and it's like, great, I spent $33 to play this thing for one day. And then I noticed earlier he set it up again and was playing for a bit. So it's like, okay, he's gonna, he spends so much time, he's not going to get locked in it for hours. It's not like Charles will get locked in it for the day. It's like,
Mhm.
okay, because he's got his stuff to watch.
Mhm.
He's got his version of his stories. So, but the fact is, like, he'll sit and he'll play, and it's like, you know what? It's engaging him.
Mhm. I
It's
wonder if you
engaging
watched
him.
the modern Carmen cartoons.
Um, when I started them, Charles got started when the game first came out for PC. Was how Charles got into it, and then the earliest version of it was when Charles was like a toddler. and
Right.
he got into it.
Back when I was young.
Yeah,
Back
and
when
that's
when I was young.
I had friends who were programmers and stuff like that. They were software adjusters and stuff. So they would often grab Charles if I showed up and go, "Hey, we got this new software. Let's see if Charles can crack it." It's like, "Great, thank you. You're teaching my son to be a hacker."
Mhm.
But he loved that, and then of course it became the PBS show, and they both loved it. Yeah, you get to play as her.
Hmm.
You get to play as her.
So this is definitely based upon the more modern Carmen cartoons, where she really was never evil. Carmen was never
No,
truly evil in any incarnations here, but the reason why everybody was after her, according to the new myth for her, is that she got framed by Vile
yeah,
for something. And now in the modern incarnation, it's like she's either with you or is a double agent at times. She wants to get her revenge on Vile, but yet at the same time, she doesn't want to be good. Her claim to fame is the best thief ever.
well, that and they did train her.
Mm-hmm.
They brought her up and trained her. According to the Netflix series I watched.
Yeah,
John and
that
I
series was
watched.
good. That series was good.
We watched that series together. He really enjoyed it, and the game kind of leans more into that series.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, so I'm going to leave it at that. So now that's a game that I probably have to take a look into because again, I grew up with USA, space, universe, and my favorite is always time. Where in time is Carmen San Diego during the time hopping in the old Border Bond series here. But I don't think Border Bond is around anymore, so I don't know
No,
who has the license for Carmen.
but
But
yeah,
I
like
love the old I love the old PBS game show, except for when they did Where in Time. Where in Time was garbage to me.
that. Yeah, I love the old show with Big Pen and
Greg
Rockapella.
Lee, Greg Lee,
Yes,
and Rockapella. Yep.
we had such a fun. It was I loved it because it was something we could watch as a family that my boys really loved, and that to me was a good show. You know. But yeah, it's out. It's available. I don't know if I pre-ordered it because John found out and then hounded me to like okay. Oh, ha ha ha.
I had to share because that to me is hilarious.
Well,
She like pointing out when we're talking too much on a subject here.
oh, where did I put it?
Well, let's
Got,
go into the reviews. Let's get into the reviews here.
I did find my Messiah complex.
Okay.
My X-Men Messiah complex. I got it. I found it, and I forgot where I put it.
Are you ready to review it?
I didn't write my notes.
So that is a no.
I'm letting you guys do the review because like I said, I am still getting settled in here. So I have not had time to just sit down with a physical book,
Mm-hmm.
But I have a couple of old X-Men books that I am thinking of because I've got Messiah Complex and then I've got one other.
Okay. Well, if I have to review something, it would be the last book that I read that came in the mail this week here. And it proved to me that I'm better off not being a fan of Spawn because I don't understand any of the stuff that is going on ever since they killed Al Simmons.
Okay.
So, without further ado, let me go into what I'm talking about here. The book that I read over this week is Scorched. I think this is Scorched #1.
Okay.
This is pretty much. I didn't realize it was a Spawn book until I got really into it. Now, this is the interesting thing here, and I'm going to show you the creative page here. it says right there, it is scripted by Sean Lewis with Todd McFarlane additional, and it's in small letters here,
Yeah.
additional dialogue. So the Todd father add extra dialogue to this book.
Okay.
So I'm up here like, okay, why? It's like, okay, I don't think Todd actually do comic books anymore. He's more into the toys and everything. I get it and everything. So the very first page that I get to, it's like, oh, I actually may not like this book because we got all these different spawns that I don't know about. And I was like, I'm not going to get any introductions to them really. I'm not going to, they're not going to kind of give us, any idea of which one, who's doing what and everything. So we just get tossed into like a middle of like an epic war.
Oh,
And
wow.
it's a war, they're going into all these different bases. It seems like they're trying to infiltrate a base somewhere in Russia. And there's all these hostages and everything taking place, and you got all these different spawns going in. So it seems like, as I went along, it's like it seems like the people that's in this base is dealing with the occult and turning people into like lycanthropes and all this other stuff, and they were saying it was inhumane here. So you got all these different versions of Spawn, including She Spawn and all this other stuff going in and whatnot. And then, at one point it's like, okay, fine, we got all this death and destruction. It's the middle of the war and everything. I was like, okay, I get it. You know, that's kind of, par for the course for, dealing with beings of supernatural power and everything. So I was like, okay, I was okay with that and everything until we get up to this point right here when they started talking about case files and all this other stuff. And then it got to the point where now it becomes more like, oh, they're actually doing this because look at all the pretty women that they get to save and everything. And they're supposed to be so helpless and yada, yada, yada. That's like, this is a bunch of bull.
Mm.
And it's like, oh, save us. We're so helpless and, helpless. And it's like, no, stop that. That's just nonsense. And then we get more blood and gore and everything. It's just like, I don't know what they're trying to make it to be. It's like now all of a sudden it's like we got pimp spawn and everything. It's like, see, I came for you. Oh, Spy, you're so cool. It's like, no, stop this.
Is this a weird honey trap?
No, because it's like, they're trying to make it. They're trying to make it to the point where they're trying to show how the fall of humanity, if I could say that. It's like that's not how you deal with that. It's like you're not, the whole thing about the standing army and the fact that they are trying to use occult magic and everything, and the people that they're using to prove the point about the average everyday citizens is just so campy and tropey, and it just doesn't fit the story as a whole here. They're making it quite obvious that it is Russia that is causing this whole thing, and the fact that it's like they're not allowing people to be free and all this other stuff. And it's like it's not this story is not the proper vehicle for Spawn. To me is not the proper vehicle for using characters like Spawn. Is not the proper vehicle to do anything that's kind of like political in an aspect here, and it's not one of those books that I would see the average woman coming up to a Spawn and be like, oh, thank you for saving me. It's like, it's more like, no, you got saved because it's not a part of what it's not a part of a Spawn getting kind of like reaping their revenges or something to that magnitude. You would just happen to be there and just happen not to be in the way.
Okay.
So,
your collateral rescue.
exactly. So, in other words, I know Spawn fans are going to hate me for this, but I give Scorch 1 a 3 out of 10. It's just not for me. I'm not going to say it's not for you, but it's just definitely not for me. It's just something that I could not follow. But then again, I'm not big of a Spawn fan. And then on top of that, after the death of Al Simmons and how they treated Al Simmons, how Todd McFarlane treated Al Simmons, I just couldn't get into Spawn after that. I really couldn't.
I get that. Um, can I do a quick? Did I do War Rohirrim already?
You did what?
Did I do War the Rohirrim already? I can't remember if I did that.
I don't think so. I don't remember it.
I have a quick review of that because I saw it. We sat down and watched it last week and loved the heck out of it. Oh my goodness, Joe froze.
No, I didn't freeze. I was looking at the comments for what was being said. It's
Oh,
like
it's
dude
good.
says like that's me and points to herself dealing with the animated gift here, and then it's like what book is that? And it was like, oh, Scorched. Yeah, yeah. It's
It's
just good
just good
art.
art.
Yeah,
Well,
the card. Yeah, I mean, it's just I don't know what else to say. Yeah, but then again, like I said, I'm not a Spawn fan. It just does not appeal to me at all, and it just the good thing about it, it was a free book.
Yay!
That if I would have paid for this, oh, I would have. It's like we have to cover Beanie Sears because I'll be saying so many different
yeah.
colorful adjectives that it would just be like ridiculous. But then again, like I said, I'm not trying to be hard on the book. It's just I know for a fact it's not for me after reading it, and it's like getting the understanding of what was going on. It's like it's not being told correctly in my eyes. It really isn't.
Well, really quick. And I'm glad you're here, Leah and Beanie, because this is for you guys. I sat down last week and I watched Lord of the Rings: War of the Rohirrim, and I loved it. Um, and I get why the fanboys are butthurt about it because the original book was written as an adventure story for young boys. However, and I get it, Lainey reads too much for her own good. If you've read the Silmarillion, you would realize that Tolkien, throughout the Silmarillion, has put quite a few strong women within his legendarium, starting with Galadriel, um, Melian the Maya, her daughter Luthien, who is the ancestress of Arwen and of both Arwen and Aragorn. Um, and I always loved Luthien because she basically, with her little puppy, goes up and beats the crap out of Sauron, then looks at his castle. This is why he's still working for Morgoth. Goes the Elvish equivalent of "F this poop," and the place falls down. And then Galadriel, in the Third Age, goes and does the same thing to Guldur. Um, the movie focuses on a young woman named Hera. She is the daughter of Helm Hammerhand, who, if you've read any of the Legendarium, where Rohan, he is considered the chief hero of the Rohan legend. Um, but he's not the direct ancestor of Theoden. And the movie explains how that happens. But in the Silmarillion, Tolkien writes a short story about early Rohan. And early in a time when Helm was king, a leader of the Dunlandings, Freka, with whom they had a peace treaty, meaning don't start nothing, won't be nothing, decides that the way to be High King of Rohan is to marry his son to Helm's daughter, of which the daughter wasn't in the mood for, and neither was Helm. Um, and Freka, taking that as an insult to his house, gets up in the king's own hall and attacks him. And the king's like, I ain't playing this. And so he decks him and he hits him so hard that he kills him. He literally takes him out with one blow, which is how he was known as the Hammerhand. Um, Now, what they did with the movie, and Philippa Boyens was the head writer of this, and Howard Shore, of course, did all the music. Um, Philippa decided because the story, it's a great story, but it's not fully fleshed out. You hit the main beats of what happens to Helm, what happens to his sons, Haleth and Hama, but they never named the daughter. And we never and in the Legendarium, we don't find out what happens to her after the whole he kills Freka and Freka's son's wolf says, I'm taking revenge on all of Rohan because, my daddy got up and showed his butt and you put him on and he hit you when you killed him. And so I'm gonna go crazy and just go to war on all of Rohan because my daddy didn't know how to act and he paid price for it. And now my mind ain't right. But what they decided to do was tell this story through the eyes of Hera. And so they fleshed her out to be what in the tribe of Rohan are known as shield maidens. And this Tolkien took from Viking culture and some Celtic culture. There were women in the Celtic Isles who fought, and they are now finding. They're actually finding tombs that show that there were women who fought, were buried with chariots and stuff like that. But we know that there were women among the Vikings, and they were often called shield maidens. Hera is a shield maiden, just like Eowyn. Um, and they tell this story of how this all starts, how it ends, is told through her eyes. And the fanboys are butthurt because, oh my God, they focused on a woman. And it's like, well, yeah, but she's a badass woman. She's not a weakling. At no point does anybody get a solid upper hand on her. And you can see, and what they did was one of the great things is they got Miranda Otto, who played Eowyn, to do the narration for this, so that we tie. It's like she's telling the story that she's been told since she was a little girl. And she is telling it from the point of view of that female ancestor. And it is, if you were a little girl, this is a great story because oftentimes, and I have felt it, I've known other women who felt it, you kind of feel a little left out. And within, you love the stories, you love the writing, it's a great adventure and all of that, but you do sometimes feel like, geez, it'd be nice if they had more women up there, like, hello, I got a sword and a shield. And for those who wonder, the reason Eowyn disguised herself as a knight and came hither wasn't because it was a shameful thing for her to be a shield maiden. It was because her uncle had told her, we don't know if we're coming back. Me and your brother, we're going to go fight this thing over here. We don't know if we're going to make it back. If we don't make it back, don't let our people die out. Lead them, defend them, keep them safe as you can. So he had basically made her queen. And the only reason she would have had to give up that position was if Theoden or her brother Aemir came back. So she was put in a position to be queen of Rohan. And he chose her because he knew what she could do. He just didn't want to put her on the immediate battlefield. She had to disguise as a knight so that he wouldn't recognize her and then send her back, because she was all in love with Aragorn and was prepared to die for love, which to me is like the only stupid part of that story. But anyway, Hera is brave. She is really smart. So the story is not so much about, okay, yeah, she is a competent fighter. She is an exceptionally competent fighter. But I love the fact that they took a more feminine view of this, because People forget, one of the great lines they gave to Eowyn in the movie was, those of us who, women learned in this country long ago that, those of us with swords can still die upon them. So that women and children are often slaughtered in a war. Um, it's a dark thing, but unfortunately, it is a truth. But we see in Hera, she is a true hero. She does not get up to this like, I want to go and fight this war. This is a situation that's thrust upon her. She can't avoid it. And she has a choice. She can either sit in a dark corner somewhere and go, oh my God, I can't manage this, or get up and say, you know what? I got a sword and shield and my horse is smart. And I am not, as she's told at one point, she has a choice to make and she makes her choice. And I loved it. Girls, women, go see this. Go see it. Go enjoy it. The fanboys, get all butthurt. It ain't, not every story out there is made for every person. It ain't always about those who were born with gonads. Sorry. Love you guys, but let's be honest. Not every story has to be made specifically for you. And I will then give the Rohirrim 9 shields and bucklers.
All right, there we go.
Oh, and you can catch it on streaming services. We caught it on Max. Hold on, Courtney. We caught War of the Rohirrim on Max.
Yes.
Okay, we caught it on Max. Did you hear that? She's so cute. Yes. she's a little pixie thing. I had to put her on camera when it is. She's a little pixie. And I drive her crazy.
You kind of bully her.
Do I bully you? Okay, she's being really quiet. Like, if I have to.
See, she's like, that's a trick question. I'm not going to answer it.
They were on your side. I'm a horrible person. She just, I don't know if the mic picked up her giggle.
Oh, yeah.
So it's just like, yep, you are. You're horrible.
All right. Now
I make good pancakes.
Yep. Now it is time for everybody's favorite part of the review. It is time for the gold standard. And go ahead, do the song.
Clyde, it's Clyde's show. It's Clyde's show. What do you know? It's Clyde's show.
The gold
like Lee Majors. This is great.
I can't sing worth a darn, but I'm a fan. Okay, I'm a fan.
Hey, for one thing, Parallax, you described the wheaty bread. Now you've made me hungry. I'm going to have to go fix some homemade bread this weekend because that sounds so good. Also,
send me your recipe. Send me your recipe.
Also, she reminded me of. She said it was 2 a.m. in London time, and
Yes.
Our friend.
What? Look at the screen real quick.
Preemptive anger. Because now I want to buy a new book.
Oh. But Glenn Fleming, our fan of the show, I thought of him this week because Comics Beat reported that Jack Kirby is finally getting his own documentary called Kirby Vision.
Whoa.
Yeah. Director Ricky Stern, who is known for Joan Rivers, A Piece of Work, and UFOs Investigating the Unknown, and producers Dan Brown and Josh Brown. They did like the Andy Warhol Diaries, and they got an Emmy for a documentary called Wild Wild Country. They're in charge of it. Don't have a lot of details about how soon it'll be out, but most people were thinking this is long overdue of a Kirby documentary. So
yeah,
hopefully maybe before the end of the year, that'll be good. So
yeah, Glenn would be interested in something like that, considering the fact that he did a Kirby book which is one of the few Kirby books, and if you got the Kickstarter or the deluxe edition, had a DVD which had unreleased footage that he took during his visits with Jack Kirby.
Glenn may be in it for all I know. maybe he's interviewed. I don't know, but I thought of him when I saw that because he's probably the biggest Kirby fan that I know, and that's saying something because I know a lot of Kirby fans. But so my comic book haul this week. These are all good reads. Cruel Kingdom is another one of the EC books, and it has kind of a medieval bent about it. And the first two stories are almost identical. It's like, I wonder if the editor really paid much attention that two different writers and two different artists came up with a very similar kind of. I can't really say any of these, they're horror stories. It's horror anthology. There's 3 stories in here. And I don't know that any of them really surprised me as far as twistiness. Yeah.
Did the dinosaur?
Yeah, well, that's the whole idea of they were talking about dragons and how some people are like, well, they're not really dragons; they're more like big lizards. Or, the real dragons were killed off ages ago. I don't know. It's well done. I just expected from EC. I expected to have more, and this is across their pantheon of books, like the epitaphs from Beyond.
Yeah, okay. I thought it was Abyss.
Abyss, yeah, from the Abyss. You're right. That same thing is sort of like, okay, I'm a few panels in, and I figure it's going to end like this, and it did. Okay. Still nicely rendered, and the writing is crisp. It's just like, I don't know. They are not doing their anthologies as well as I thought they would on a continuing basis. They launched strong, and we have a lot of Colin Bunnisms now. It's like, this is a really good, a potentially good story. It's a shame that they didn't stick the landing with it like I expected them to, or like I would have thought that they should. So
is it mainly because of the difference in generation of writers? Because again, EC back in the day, they had great writers. Now we got better artists, but the writing may not be all that great.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to be J.J. Abrams. He can start a story. He can give you some WTF moments, but he doesn't always stick the landing.
Yeah. It could be Joe, although some of these are names, recognizable talent. And it could be the sort of thing where they're letting people stretch their legs on writing horror that don't normally do it, but they have good writing chops for other things, and it's not always a comfortable fit. That could be part of it. I hadn't really thought about it like that. But
so like me writing horror.
Maybe,
it won't work. Yeah. It won't work.
Yeah. Or me writing a really hard science fiction story. I have done it. I can do it. I don't know that I'm really good at it. But
I know I'm not.
Space opera is much, much better. Although I had a lot of fun. I was with a APA group that was writing hard sci-fi for a while, and that was a blast because it was you had a social group about it, and there were the administrator of the APA had set down the ground rules of this world that she created, and it was fun, but hard science. I had to do some research to try to make it at least live up to what they wanted conceptually. So anyway, Shazam 21 looks like the end of the series. Goes out on a high note.
They can Shazam already?
I think so, because it says Finn, and it kind of wraps up all the storylines and had the Mr. Mind arc going on in it. But it's pretty much a hi and thanks for all the fish. Bye and thanks for all the fish. Ending there.
So long and thanks for all the fish.
Yeah. So
we did it, Douglas Adams. Yay.
But did it very well. Talks about, it goes over the things that the difference between what makes the Shazam fam work and Mr. Mind fail, and along with the Savannahs. for a side note to it. But yeah, it was a very satisfying kind of wrap to it. But yeah, I hadn't heard that they canceled it, so I was kind of like, oh, well, I guess this probably is it. But Birds of Prey, number 19. Um,
Ooh.
it's the end of the two-part
Yay.
arc. Um,
Like,
and this was good. This is one of those where um, just all of their different characters that they've been working on and including really get moments to shine in this. They each one shares the spotlight in different ways that really make you go, yeah, this is a why she is a bird of prey. This works very well. The Kane Batgirl version of Batgirl is brilliant. Um, the Black Canary is good as the senior member, along with Barbara, and they fend off. They have an attack by uh, some of the offshoots of Ra's al Ghul's group, um, and have to repel them. And it's and Barda. Oh, Joe, I don't know
I,
if you like all of the story, but you will like Barda's part in this, I think.
well, I got to the point with Birds of Prey. I have a lot more respect for Black Canary now as a leader slash general,
Hmm.
only because she let Barda be Barda.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
Barda is no pushover,
Hmm.
and she's been where Canary has been as
Hmm.
leader.
Hmm.
And
Cassandra,
it's not too much. It's not too much that Canary could say to Barda to make Barda listen.
yeah. Uh, Cassandra Kane um, has to deal with a demon that has been playing, uh, basically has kidnapped John Constantine. So she's doing this like battle of wits with a demon, and she's really outstanding. And then Barda is fighting these monsters that you smash them and they reform.
oh, no.
So she has to cope with something that can stand up to the damage that she does and come right back at her. And she does. So it's just a whole lot of
Yeah, that's what
nice
she lives
moments.
for. She actually lives for that.
Well, but I mean,
She
after a
lives for
while,
that.
they're keeping her from what she really wants to be doing.
Hmm.
So they're an obstruction, and she has to figure out how to overcome it. And she does. And in the meantime, she also is like, somebody that has the power to clear the obstruction. She's like, if you don't do this, you will regret it. And let me explain to you how. And I'm like, oh yeah, yeah, okay. Intimidation 20 on a 20 sider. Yeah, okay, we're good. I
Oh,
can see this working. So
And that's what she's good at.
yeah, I
She
know.
has those moments where she rolls that critical success, that 20.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. So good, solid issue. And like I said, it's the second part of a two-part story. So I kind of like the idea that I like that they have a short arc on this one just to kind of, you know, keep it in focus. So um, JSA number 5. This sets up this is Jeff Lemire writing it, and it sets up the Injustice Society's modern day um, version, an updated version, along with some of the villains that they came up with for those retro series on Jay Garrick's Flash, um, the Golden Age Green Lantern, and Sandman. Some of the characters, like in Sandman, they had a character called the Fog, who stole Wesley Dodd's gas um, recipes that he deemed as too dangerous. He had the sleep gas, but he had come up with others that were deadly, noxious, lethal, and so the Fog took all those, stole all those, and made his own identity, and became like this other kind of like the Reverse Flash, like the Reverse Sandman. He's the Fog. Um, he shows up
Mhm.
in the new Injustice Society, so I like that. I like that their continuity is kind of locking in place, and yeah, some of the characters. Oh, we get a cameo appearance, and I think we're going to see more of her. And this excites me because this version of the character is very entertaining so far. But we get a new version of Kid Eternity, who's a young lady.
Oh,
Yeah,
Cool.
yeah, yeah.
wait. I wonder if that's the reintroduction of her because did she have like a Young Animals series not too long ago? Is that the same one from the Young Animals?
That does sound right. Although they kind of Lemire, like when she shows up, she's in an infernal realm where they're holding Hawkman, and Hawkman's like, "Who are you?" And she goes, "I wish I knew. I I know my name is Kid Eternity, but I don't even know what that really means." So it's kind
Ah,
of a clean slate. She's a ghost, which makes sense because the original Kid Eternity was pretty much a ghost too.
Mhm.
So, but she helps get the she helps get Hawkman to escape, and then she floats up with him, going to reunite with the others as the Tower of Fate is under attack by the Injustice Society, and it's a formidable attack. And in the tower defending it, you've got, of course, the new Doctor Fate, who doesn't have a lot of experience with his arcane powers yet, but he does have the Helm of Naboo, so he's making it work for now. And you've
Without
got,
Naboo cursing at him.
you know, he's. I think even Naboo realizes this is serious. We need to. You know, I've got to like help him along here, or this is gonna be bad. So you got him. You got Alan Scott, Jay Garrick, um, and Wildcat, Ted Grant. All. So you got the real heart defending the tower against all comers. Kind of, it almost the battleground almost looks like Avengers Endgame, you know, on your left because there's a lot there's a lot of incoming, and there's like four caps holding a shield. Well, there's three caps holding a shield, and one young kid, kind of one Spider-Man going, "What do we do now?" So yeah. Um, Now,
oh
talking
no.
about doing anthologies right, horror anthologies, Hyde Street
Ooh,
Ooh.
yeah.
continues. I hope that at the end of the year, when it comes to award time, this gets some mentions because it certainly deserves some, especially for stories like Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein's Brother.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. It's 1949, and they're going to make a sequel to Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein because it made money, and they didn't really expect that it was going to be that big of a hit.
Yeah.
And so we get some dream casting. We get a guy that is cast as, and some of them don't like Glenn Strange doesn't want to do the monster again. He's afraid he's going to get typecast. Um, um, Karloff, wouldn't do it for the first Abbott and Costello. He doesn't want to do it for this one. So they hire a new guy um, who just happens to be 6'7". That's his main qualification. He can act a little bit, and he's 6'7". And this is a guy though who really wants to be an actor. I mean, he really wants to be on stage and on Broadway and stuff like that. But he
Does
manages.
he
He
break
ends
out
up
into putting on the Ritz?
no, but he ends up taking the role. And I look the artwork in
Nice.
Hyde Street is just beautiful.
Wow.
So here we see this version of Frankenstein's brother apparently. Um, but it goes through the whole thing, and Charles Barton, the guy who directed Abbott and Costello, um, pays him a compliment, going, because he's afraid he's just being cast because he's the right size to be this monsterish guy. And Barton goes, "And I saw you. You did that little off the scenic route monologue play." And he goes, "You saw that? There was like 5 people in the audience." He goes, "Yeah, I like to check out up and coming talent, and you really impressed me with your expression and your. It's like the monster that you're going to play. You can see in your eyes the suffering, and that you're not a monster, and that's why you were cast." So, but it's Hyde Street, and he makes a mistake, and he wakes up on Hyde Street as the monster. And to get out, of course, you've got to deliver souls.
Oh no.
Yeah, and the first soul that he has to deliver is, let's see if I can find the page here real quick. This one.
Oh
Oh
no, not the little Daisy
no,
girl.
no! It's this full circle. It's almost full circle if you
I
pay
know.
attention
Oh,
to
yeah.
Frankenstein. It's like full circle. It's like the very first one is the very first person that befriended him.
And
It-
you find out that although you have people like Mr. X-Ray and uh, the little kid that is competing with each other to send souls to their final destination, be it good or bad. Um, some of the beings that have been placed there to do this collection refuse to go along with the program. They're renegades. And so it sets up a whole other kind of aesthetic for where this series can go, while also still filling out, see the monster down there? That's like the
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
from the
Monster-sized
old
monster.
ads, monster-sized monsters, the
Oh,
Mr. X-Ray.
monster!
But they're basically taking almost each of their characters. It has a connection to those old ads, like Mr. X-Ray's from. So
Piranha people.
yeah, piranha people. So and so it sets up an interesting strata of characters that because if you remember, um, all the others, they're like, especially that kid is in competition to get more souls than anybody else, and so he can get out of there. And but some of them like this monster, they call him the matinee monster, and he refuses to cooperate, too much to his suffering. But so that was like my favorite read this week, and I just love all the details they put in there about who they might have cast for different parts as if they had made a sequel to Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein. So yeah, it has a lot of if you're an old movie nerd like me, it's got a whole lot of stuff in it that you go, this is really cool. So, but what I'm going to review.
Well, before you go into that, I
yeah,
have one question here.
Yeah.
And you probably understand the question when I ask.
Okay.
Does that series give you the same type of feels like 8 billion G's and do a power bomb? Only reason I ask because those are ones that we reviewed here that eventually won Eisner's.
Eisner's, yeah. It does in different ways, and not in the same strata. Because to me, those are like wildly creative and different. This, of course, I mean, when you boil it down, it does have horror anthology roots, and those others are their own thing more, I think. Wrestling genre, yes, but so different.
It wasn't really about the wrestling. It was
I
about
know. That's what I
something
mean.
else.
Yeah. So I don't know that this is quite that groundbreakingly, but it's definitely fresh for the end. I have read I've reviewed and talked about tons of horror anthologies this last year and a half, and this one is the one that really I mean, when I get a horror anthology, I normally go, ooh. When I get this one, I go, ooh. It's that kind of difference because I want to see what Hyde Street's got going on with it. And it is part of the Image Ghost Machine titles, which have all been good. We got ad on the back for the
Rook. Yeah.
So Rook Exodus. So it's just kind of whatever genre that they pick, they're tending to pretty much, for my money, knock it out of the park with it. And Hyde Street is one of my favorites from them now. So anyway, so here's the thing. Dark Horse Comics is going through a period of layoffs and cost cutting, and I'm seeing a lot of grumbling online from fans, especially given how Dark Horse, they gave a pretty short notice that they were getting rid of their ebook files and the readers. So basically, if you bought one of their books in their self-stored e-format, those copies went or soon will go bye-bye. Meaning, yes, you're stuck in the position of you bought it once, but now if you have to buy the White Album again if you want that comic book. You're gonna have to buy it um, in if you can find it, like a back issue. And I get where people would be frustrated with that. Of I bought it once and I got to buy it again because you're not going to host where it was kept. Um, but my reviews tonight is for a book that premiered a few weeks ago from Dark Horse and is a textbook of how a cryptid tale can be done well. Um, it's one of many examples regarding the quality material that Dark Horse has been putting out on a regular basis the last few years, and it's why I hope they can weather their financial woes and carry on. So, Exhibit A for why Dark Horse deserves our patronage will tonight be Let This One Be a Devil, number one.
Ooh.
And let's look at it's a beautifully illustrated book. So, Joe, if you'll show that's the cover. That's one of several covers, but and you get this like farmhouse in 1909. And I
Oh,
thought the detail on this is excellent. And the lighting from the oil lamps, I really love the coloration.
yeah.
Next page, please. And that's it, January 1909, which is for the Jersey Devil legend, which this is about, is like, I think in the month of January 1909, there were 30 confirmed sightings of this thing. If you're going to set a thing about the Jersey Devil's history, January of 1909 is the perfect time to do it. So here you got a young man. There's something out bothering the chickens. He's going to check out in this
Oh,
uh,
shoots.
rustic, back not really backwoods, but it's away from town. It's out in the farmlands. And he finds murdered chickens, and then he finds what's murdering them. Next page, please.
Oh,
Yeah,
ooh.
which I think is one of the best representations I've ever seen of what the Jersey Devil has been described as. And so, of course, he has to blink a couple times. Next page. And then he takes a pot shot as it flies off.
Well, at
So,
least it
and you
didn't
can really see
attack
that
him.
he didn't attack him. No, no. So that's the artwork for it. And I think it's very well illustrated. Again, I have seen the Jersey Devil represented in comic book art form many times. I think from what we can see, and of course it's in shadow, we don't see a whole, but this is this is perfect.
I wouldn't
It
want to
makes
run into it.
it look like a real thing, not like a. In, a lot of times when you're doing cryptid stuff, it's very stylized. This looks like somebody who's really studied, somebody that's very good at drawing anatomically um, detailed representations of animals, has read the descriptions carefully and made this. Imagined it as a real thing, an unidentified thing perhaps, but a real thing, and that's pretty unique for a cryptid tale. Um, so here's the deal. Um, Let This One Be a Devil, number one. It's number one of four in this miniseries. It's published by Dark Horse Comics. It's got a $4.99 cover price. The writers are James Tynan IV and Steve Fox. Um, the art is Peter Kowalski. The colors, Brad Simpson. Letters, Tom Napolitano. And it is ready to mature. Um, so if you're going to dive into legends and lore regarding the cryptid known as the Jersey Devil, or it's also called the Leeds Devil and the Pine Barren Devil and the Wazzle Bug, um, January of 1909 is a good springboard because while folklore and sightings of the creature had been around from the 18th and 19th centuries, that one week in the early year of the 20th century produced 30 or more sightings across southern portions of New Jersey, and that's just where Tynan and Fox dropped um, their plummets exploring the depths of the Jersey Devil mystery. And Let This Be a Devil number one follows one Henry Naughton, the young man that we saw with the glasses, born in the rural and rustic Pine Barrens region, but recently returned home from college following the death of his father.
Ah,
And it's not a particularly joyful reunion. His return, Henry says, was to help his mother, Polly, run their farm and make a living. But the Naughtons are cut from the practical and self sufficient cloth the Barons are known for. The family received a death settlement from the factory where his father worked. His younger brother, 15-year-old Roy, is seeking the position his father held there. Uh, and pretty much the family's like saying that they'll manage. Henry isn't really needed, and they don't really make any bones about they don't need you. Um, it's not like a rejection, it's just more like a practical, you're not needed. It's a fact that Roy echoes, and other townsfolk also make it clear. Uh, unlike most of them, Henry did well in book learning, and he left the area for college and a career as a scholar. And the Barons people are like, we don't need scholars. It's an outlook that's made crystal by some of them more pointedly than others. But Henry may be from the Barons, but he's not of the Barons. And after he left, he's even less not a part of us. So his status as an outsider is made very clear when he chases off that something that was preying on the family's chickens. The practical farm folk blame foxes, wild dogs, owls, maybe even a cougar. But Henry knows what he saw, and it was none of those things. A few infer it could be the Leeds devil, but in true folklore fashion, it's never named because, naming gives the infernal power, after all, according to superstitious people, and again, practical and yet superstitious people in the Pine Barrens at this time in history. So, newspapers, though, they're not shy regarding naming the devil and the Leeds family that allegedly spawned it in 1735. And there's an article that sheds light on the legend's origins for Henry. And we readers are taken along for the flashback ride. It is a very engaging start. So I come from a rural background myself, and the setting and even the mindsets of the Barrens residents, it has the ring of truth to what I can recall seeing as a kid. Um, and so do the cryptid sightings and claims, because my practical self-sufficient farming family, they told of early 20th century encounters with shadowy large cats like panthers and little red men of the woods. So, it was an era when roads were being cut through what amounted to a giant forest canopy extended from where we live in the south part of Illinois all the way down to Louisiana, broken only by stretches of farmland. Um, the need for more roads through that canopy may have dislodged many unusual animals rarely encountered by humans in the beginning of the 20th century. My family even speculated that kind of stuff. And with the advent of interstate highways in the years following World War II, when I was a kid, this is when this was going on. I remember when Interstate 57 opened, um, there were increases in those years and in the years following with cryptid encounters like Bigfoot sightings all through here, when those woodlands were being even more heavily cut up and traversed with equipment and traffic and men. So, hearing these sorts of encounters, ones that were similar to Henry's, recounted by real people from the same era, always left me watching the wooded back roads more closely at night. Practical people used to the region describing something that they didn't quite understand and freely admitted that they had no easy explanation for. That's a powerful combination. And, some would say, yes, it's the fuel for mass hysteria, but also perhaps something real and strange and mysterious. It wasn't a fact lost on me as a kid, and this book kind of brings all that back. Tynan and Fox have conjured the same eerie unease. They may have hammered the outsider status of Henry a little harder than they would have had to. Like I said, he's really made to feel unwanted. Maybe we'll find out why that is. Maybe there's more reasoning, but in the first issue, he's a college educated person that has come back early to a place where they didn't expect him to come back, and they're not happy or sad to see him back. It's just sort of like, why are you here? We don't need you. Um, and they like I said, they hammer it a little hard, perhaps, but we'll see how as it goes on with the future issues. We'll see how that goes. Um, And it also, it makes, if you've ever been in that kind of a, you ain't from around here, are you, boy, kind of a crowd, it you can identify. They make it clear enough that you can feel for Henry, what that's like.
Yeah.
So Peter Kowalski he's getting some mad artist cred for delivering top illustrations this issue. The barons, the styles of the homes, the everyday tools and the clothing and the farm um, sheds, they all carry a casual accuracy to them. It just looks organic and right the way it's not like, it doesn't look like somebody that has studied them carefully and then, tried to make their versions of it, or, this it just feels natural. Um, and like I said, he invests the depiction of the devil with a powerful realism. Um, and a lot of times, illustrators on cryptid tales, to me, they go stylistic, um, but this is organic. This looks like a real creature, um, and it leaves us identifying with Henry Moore again because he may not be certain of what he saw, but he was very certain that it was real, and then it wasn't a cougar and it wasn't an owl, and it puts us in the position of being vicarious Scoobies because we're primed for the second chapter of investigation because we're like, yes, this does look like a real thing. Um, Now, an added bonus for those 40 followers is a backup feature in this issue. It was written by Rachel Deering. It's drawn by Jesse Longren and lettered by Aditya Bidikar. Shattered and Shook. It's loosely based on the real life work of parapsychologist William G. Roll and his theory of recurrent spontaneous psychokinesis in young people. That's a phenomenon that he believed was likely the true cause of poltergeist activity. So we have a little story that, again, deals with something that is, uh, the Jersey Devil is a legend and a cryptid that has had all kinds of speculation. Well, here we have a story of a guy that actually made it his career to um, speculate about the causes, besides just the supernatural, of poltergeist activity. It's a very short little. I think it's like 4 pages. It's not a long story, but it's interesting, and it's a nice cap to the rest of the issue. So the takeaway, altogether, Let This One Be a Devil is a solid parcel of cryptid entertainment, especially if you're looking for a serious treatment of the mysteries surrounding such legends, instead of the wildly inventive or tongue-in-cheek handling of storylines that's more common for cryptids. This is a grounded expansion on a fanciful creature and one whose story and cloven hooves take flight on bat-like wings thanks to a top creative team. So, for entertainingly introducing the Jersey Devil legend and the accounts about it to a new generation, and doing the same for those of us who already know him through our cryptid fascinations in ways that is fresh and entertaining, Let This One Be a Devil #1 gets my score of 8.5 in search of episodes out of 10.
Really
Yeah.
cool.
Hmm.
I saw Nosferatu, um, the
Ah.
new one that came out.
Hmm.
It's better than I expected.
Okay.
It is not the original, because people forget the original was a silent movie.
Hmm.
Um, this one, and I there were things I loved about it. Um, in regards to there is a lot in regards to the psychological, the psychosexual,
Hmm.
um, and you can see how you can see how they take the root of the first Nosferatu, how that inspired the later Lugosi Dracula film, but also how Nosferatu was inspired by Stoker's story, as
Hmm.
well as the um, the legends in that area, and you get to see how through the lead male character we go from Victorian England to um, to this backwater Eastern European
Hmm.
country. And you get to see how they depict it, how they depict the way, from everything from the way everything looks to the way people interact. This story or the story that's built around Orlok and stuff, and how those things affect the story as it moves forward. Um, and if you and I get why some people don't get it, because it's like, okay, you really don't understand Victorian England, because if people remember, Victorian England was an interesting time. On one hand, yes, you had advances in science and engineering and all of that, but you also had a culture that was also, especially in regards to small towns and stuff, still steeped in the occult, and even Queen Victoria and her court were, as much as Victorian England wanted to say it was a God-fearing country, they were also very much into the occult. Tarot cards. Um, there were a lot of occultists at the time. It is, and the movie kind of takes this sort of trying to balance this, people who at the time thought of themselves as modern, forward-looking people, balanced against this thing that they don't understand. That is something old and dark, and in its way, really terrifying. The way they do it. The Skarsgård boy actually did a really interesting job as Orlok. Though there are times when the accent did kind of go. If I was sitting in the room with you at the time, I would hit you with a brick.
It's really thick.
It is.
puts it
Oh
on
my
thick.
God! And I
And I don't
thought,
like the look. I was expecting. I mean, I know that they're trying to fuse, because basically, um, the first Nosferatu, the original, it's a ripoff of Stoker.
yeah, it is. It is very much from
It's
the
Dracula,
Stoker,
but they
and
didn't want to get sued, and they had to make changes. And
and you
if you're
can.
going to do Nosferatu, though, I don't want to see you bring the Dracula back into it with mustaches. I don't want that. I want to see the Nosferatu that was like we saw, from the original film, and that look did not occur.
The original is very much horror melodrama. This one they tried to do something a little different, and I could see where they were going with it.
The approach and the mood is great.
Yeah, the mood.
It was just that the version that they made of Orlok just left me really
The
cold.
part with the pregnant friend and her daughters, just
Mhm.
oh my God, I was gutted.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
just, oh my God. But I was watching with people who didn't quite get, some of, and it's like, it's because on the one hand, yes, they are making themselves more of a modern you're talking about the beginning of the industrial age. You've got
Mm.
forward moving and engineering and stuff. But at the same time, you also have a country that, for all its speaking on the surface about Christendom and all of that, is very much tied into the occult and occult, if not immediate practices, at least, this was a time when, depending on where you went in the English countryside, people, small little hamlets, people still would go out to the edge of the woods and leave a loaf of bread for the fairies. So you had that sort of dichotomy of, yes, we're getting more engineered and stuff like that, but at the same time, there's this very much sort of like with your Jersey Devil situation. It is very much that sort of that sort of modernism, but at the same time, there's that rooted in the land, rooted in the legends and whatnot. And when I was watching it, thinking, yeah, this is that point at which these two worlds clash,
Mm.
because while this Victorian England has moved a little more forward than this country, And I was so happy they mentioned the country of Bohemia,
Hmm.
because a lot of people don't realize there was a country of Bohemia. In fact, the 30-Year War in Europe was because the guy who was king of Bohemia wanted to be the Holy Roman Emperor. and, and decided he got the Pope's blessing, and then went on the mother of all benders. But I could kind of see where they were going, but I could also see where they were falling short. They were, on the one hand, they were trying to make it too modern.
Hmm.
And like you said, there are aspects of the original movie that they kind of just went, that's a little too. We're gonna let that go. We're gonna do this instead.
Yeah.
You know.
I read for my review at Comics Beat this week, actually for next week. I got it early, but I got to read the Universal Monsters the Mummy #1, which is
Ooh,
where
okay.
they're redoing those classic Universal monsters from a different perspective or with added elements to the story. Um, and and this one, um, the writer and artist are the same person. She has won, I believe, Eisner's for um, what looks like young adult work.
Ooh, okay.
And the writing is excellent. Um, it basically puts Helen, the female protagonist, in the forefront. They mentioned in the movie, because I went back and watched the movie just to see if I could get a feel for what she was trying to do here. In the movie, they say, it's like in the Brendan Fraser remake later. The female protagonist is born of a British father and an Egyptian mother.
And she's a librarian.
No, she's not a librarian in this case, but she
Oh,
is firmly between both worlds and a part of neither, not really accepted by either one fully. She's between two cultures. And that is something that they mention in the movie, but they don't really do anything with it. It's about Imhotep and the monster hunters. And she's kind of part of the love interest, but her story is kind of glossed over. And so in this version, she's kind of the center point, and everything else is revolving around her, including all the events from the movie. And that works. But this writer and artist's her art style is extremely cartoonish, caricature caricature. And I think that Nosferatu spoiled me a little bit because I want atmosphere, especially with something like the Mummy's kind of a weak sister for the Universal monsters. We only get to see Karloff and the Jack Pierce stuff for about 25 seconds on screen, and then he's prune face Boris for the rest of the thing with this really intense stare. Um, and she didn't really conjure anything with that. I think it's one of those cases where they wanted her to write so badly, and then she said, "I'll draw it too," and they went, "Okay."
and I think a lot of sometimes when people, those old movies had great atmosphere. It's
Mhm.
what made the original Nosferatu so great, is that it wasn't really horror, but it was exceptionally atmospheric.
Yes.
It always gave, you always had, watching that movie, that sort of sense of dread, that there was always, around the corner. It could be, any minute he might come out the shadows and get you.
If you're sitting in a darkened room watching it, I know the first time I saw it, I checking over my shoulder all the time. Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, and I think it's interesting working on my own stuff, trying to figure out how to give that atmosphere, and to even when, if there's a light moment, to always kind of have it in the background, even when it's something that's kind of light. There's always, to always try to figure out how to do it so that there's that sense of, yeah, this is a nice moment, but there's still this looming overhead.
I don't think I'm like completely off base. I know art is subjective, but for one thing, the Dracula book that they started all those miniseries with, the artwork on that was just so beautiful. They kind of set their bar high. And while some of the others haven't been as good as that, they've been serviceable enough. But in this one, it just really takes you out of the. Um, Again, I don't throw the term cartoonish around lightly, but this really, really has a cartoonish young adult um, aesthetic look about it that just does not serve. And here's the other thing too: is I don't think I'm too off base because when they send out previews, like I showed you the previews for "Let This One Be the
Mhm.
Devil," that's 6-page preview. Okay, the preview that I saw that they sent out of this is like 4 versions of the cover, which are really cool covers for the Mummy, and 2 pages of art.
Okay.
Yeah, I think
Sounds
that's
more like they were putting together a Kickstarter campaign.
it. Just I think that I don't think because I turned it in today, but I was kind of going back and forth of how much to say or what to think about it or what to say about it. And then I looked at the previews and I'm like, they didn't even put out a whole bunch of pages. They just put out these excellent, very nice. And she did one of the covers, and that's one of the covers they used. But I don't know. It's just um, it kind of looks like she did the Monster Squad version of the Mummy as far as its look. It's just very, yeah, it's
She is cracking off over Monster Scrub.
yeah.
Well,
Well,
I mean, not to crap on Monster Squad. I mean, hello, Wolfman's got nards.
But the Mummy is the weak
will live
sister in that.
forever.
Even in that one, Band-Aid breath, he gets unraveled. The end of the Mummy. So yeah, I'm like, this just doesn't really. And they already had enough. The Mummy again is okay. I was on the library board here. We would pick these Halloween movies, Universal classic horror movies for Halloween. Several times I suggested the Mummy, and they're like, no. Why?
Yeah.
Boring, 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 boring. So it kind of has that stigma. I guess it's a love story across 3,700 years, with creepiness about it and Karloff's presence. But none of that part, the Karloff's presence part, transfers over very well into at least the first issue. That may change as we see more of his character, because again, Helen is the center point of the first issue. But anyway, be sure to look at my review. It comes out next week on Comics Beat.
Okay.
I guess that's a good point to leave everything off on, because I kept silent during that whole read. I was sitting up here thinking to myself, it's like, you know what? We are kind of old heads. And we don't know what their target demographic is for this particular monster book. And I was like, you know what? Maybe we're not the demographic they're trying to create.
Maybe.
Mummy fans. I don't know.
Yeah. But I mean, her writing is superb. It's like you've written it so well. It's sort of like the reverse of your Scorcher. It's drawn beautifully, but the story just left you cold. This story is extremely engaging, and I think it would be for younger, especially young female readers. I think they would really, really like this. But man, the artwork was just hard to get over. So, anyway,
and that's the nature of comics, to be quite honest, that getting that perfect marriage between writing and art.
Yeah.
And
it's hard.
I know I've been in several different arguments where I keep up here trying to tell people sometimes the writing keeps people in the seats a lot longer than the art, because if you have great art, like with Scorched, great art, I read the story, I'd be like, nah, this ain't for me. This definitely ain't for me. I know for a fact it ain't for me, because the story doesn't go nowhere for me. But in your case with the Mummy, good writing, but you're up here questioning, it's like, will the art get better? If it doesn't, then would be like, now I could give it up. but you're at least in there for at least another issue because the story kept you going.
Yeah, I definitely would like to. I probably will end up like from Hoopla getting the collection when they put it out because I've liked all the stuff that they've done. The Universal Monsters has been at least as good and some usually better than some of the supernatural Universal Monster versions.
Mhm.
Tom Cruise mummy,
No,
that they've done. So
I pretended that one just, it was a bad dream someone had,
what
and I
one?
let it go at that.
What one?
Again, outside of Universal, the only mummy that I partake in is the Brendan Fraser franchise.
Mm-hmm.
Outside the original Universal one, that franchise is what I would consider mummy related material to watch.
Yeah, yeah. And I will give them credit also. They stuck with the things from the first movie. They didn't dive into any kind of stuff that was later, like Tana Leaves or any of the stuff that was from the sequels, were more monster movies. They didn't, nothing Brendan Fraser-ish brought into it. They were very, very focused and true to the original, as they have been with the other adaptations and reinventions or re-examinations. But anyway.
Hey, even Rocky and Bullwinkle did the Tana Leaves.
See, don't bring up Rocky Bullwinkle because I just recently rewatched What's the Matter You series. Not too long ago.
Yeah, I was when you were talking about the Jersey Devil thing here in Chicago. WVON, I think it was Herb Kent created the Jim Sue Creeper and the Wahoo Man, and they were they were the boogeymen. Growing up as a little girl, and he used to tell us to be careful of the Jim Shoe Creeper and the Wahoo Man because the creeper would get you if you didn't watch out. Because he would say all the kids it would be, he was the late evening DJ. So around 10, he would say all the kids should be in bed, or at least at home because you don't want the Jim Shoe Creeper or the Wahoo Man to get you. He actually, back when radio stations were willing to take more chances, he had a small group they would do. I don't think they were live, but they would do recordings of the adventures of the Jim Shoe Creeper. They had a couple of those that they did that were just hilarious, But I was thinking of it's like, yeah, you guys, y'all got the Jersey Devil, the Wisconsin got the Beast of Bray Road. We got the Jim Shoe Creeper and the Wahoo Man.
Well, let's get out. It's almost time for
Yes.
all the kids to go to bed, so let's get out of here before the Wahoo Man comes out.
All right.
The creeper grabs them once the creeper grabs you, you stay grabbed.
All right. There you go.
Hey guys, thank you for joining us, whether you're here with us live, whether you watch us later. Thank you. Love you. Come check each of us out. As you see, I put my website address in there, lenscaponline.com. If you go to the contact us little section at the bottom of the page. Drop me a line. Say howdy. Let me know where you're from, how you've seen us, okay? And until then, next time we see you, take care of yourselves. Be cool out there, okay? Love it to death. Bye.
Right. Bye.
Hey, I'm Clyde Hall. I'm an elder statesman of geekery. You can follow me on Facebook at Clyde Hall or Radiating Positive Vibes with author Clyde Hall. I'm on Blue Sky at Captain Action, all one word, .bsky.social. Or you can check out my Amazon authors page right down here. Part of the Comics Beat online comic book review crew at comicsbeat.com. And part of the Comic Book Spectrum podcast every Thursday night at 7 p.m. Central on YouTube. I'm also an award-winning contributing writer at Stormgate Press with short stories in many of the new pulp anthologies that they put out, like the Pulp Reality series. This is the number 5 in the series Pulp Reality Adventures. This one's dedicated to all of the Mystery Men type characters, all original Mystery Men in each of these stories. Has my original character called the Mannequin, spreading justice in his wake across the gangland settings of the 1940s. So other anthologies we have are things like Tim Bruckner's Major Marjorie. It's old style sci-fi pulp. And Spurs and Six Shooters, Tales of the Old West, which is based on Western pulps. And The Lost Adventures of Captain Hocklin, Volume 2 in this case, but aviation heroes with a pulp flair. You can find all these at Stormgate Press at www.stormgatepress.com and on Amazon. Now, Comic Book Spectrum is brought to you by one of our Stormgate Press alumni, and that is artist extraordinaire Jeffrey Hayes of Plasma Fire Graphics. He is a Pulp Factory award-winning artist several years running, and his covers illustrate why everyone except Pulp Reality 5, these are all his work. And in fact, Major Marjorie was, I believe, his first Pulp Factory award. So when you want somebody that can bring readers to your table to purchase your wares, your books, your games, anything that's graphically enhanced, you want somebody in your corner like Jeffrey Hayes. He can get people over to your table just from the look of his art. He is also easy to work with, and he's quite affordable. So now Joe is going to tell you how you can get Jeffrey Hayes and his company, Plasma Fire Graphics, working for you.
That is correct, Clyde. And what we're going to do here, we're going to show you this quick little video here that shows you a little bit more what Jeffrey Hayes can do for you.
You've worked hard and written a great book. Now it's time to give it a great cover. If you're an indie author or small press publisher, Plasma Fire Graphics is your source for affordable cover illustration and graphic design. Plasma Fire Graphics, when the look of your book matters to you.
And there you have it. Jeffrey Hayes at plasmafiregraphics.com. Look on, get on, go to the website, hit him up. He will be happily to do your next cover that will bring people to the table, and you can sell your books that way. As far as me, I hope that you guys forgive the glasses for today, because like I said, we went with the theme about everybody wearing glasses and everything, and the sunglasses actually work pretty well, because that way I don't have to deal with the glare from both monitors that I have to look at during the whole entire show. But as far as me, I will be back this Saturday, and yes, this Saturday we have another Whatnot show, so we want to be on Whatnot at 5 p.m. Central Standard Time. Well, actually, towards the end of Saturday, we will be in daylight savings. So the last time I'm going to say 5 o'clock, 5 o'clock Central Standard. Weeks after that would be Central Daylight. We're going to be moved up an hour ahead here, and then we'll be back here on YouTube at 9 p.m. Central Standard Time here, where we're going to be talking about more comic book collecting here, especially one topic that I really want to bring up here. It's a little bit controversial because it's dealing with collecting, and it's also dealing with a technique that a lot of people use to make their collection more valuable. But it's a question that needs to be asked, and it's going to probably start a little bit of a conversation, and I hope that you would be there to participate in that conversation live right here on this particular channel for From the Desk of a Small Press Publisher. So until next Thursday, live life, grow, and be well. And unlike our founder of the show, Brian K. Morris, I don't care if you wash your hands, but never, and I do mean never, apologize for being awesome. Thank you so kindly for watching. Thank you for commenting. thank you for watching the replay if you do get a chance to watch it there. And it looks like we got a couple more comments before we go here. I will be there, Will and Beans and Lil. Yep. So we got people that are going to be there come Saturday. So we'll be looking for you forward to seeing you then here. Until next week, this is Joe, and we are out of here. Good night, and see you Saturday.